Hey Gateway, we're going to change it up a little bit today, have a little bit of fun. We've done, some Bible studies and some conversations. So I've got Jeremy with me here today. I'm going to do like a lightning interview of him, asking him a couple questions because the words quarantine and isolation, social distancing, these have entered our vocabulary very, very, very quickly. I mean, you can now say social distancing in a regular conversation and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
And technically now it's physical distancing.
It is, this is a camera trick. We're actually 6 feet apart from each other right now. I'm in front of him, he's behind me. So if you're like, they're not even practicing it in the video, we are. So I'm going to do a lightning round interview session. I'm going to ask him some questions. So here's the scenario. We're going to say, okay, you're in quarantine of some kind. You've got to spend, we're not here yet, but what we might go into a lockdown or something like that. And let's find out who Jeremy Kughn really is. All right, Jeremy, you can only watch 3 movies during your quarantine. What are those movies?
In order, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Okay, I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to let you, wait, extended version or short version?
Oh, extended version.
Extended version. So you're going to get some good sleep.
Yeah.
Because they'll put you to sleep. Let's say, I'm going to mix it up. Let's say that I count a trilogy or a collection as one movie. So do you have 2 other movies right off the top of your head?
The Trip to Bountiful and Steel Magnolias.
Okay, all right.
No, those are not 2 I would watch.
I don't even know the second one. All right. So you can only have 3 fictional books. What are those books?
Ooh, in order, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
So my copies of those books are actually all together in one book.
Yeah, technically.
And so they're Lord of the Rings. So same thing. So do you have 2 other fictional books that you're like, oh, these have been really fun for me?
Harry Potter 1 through 7. Does
True.
that count as one?
Yeah, I'd count that as one. Because you can't some are better than others, but it's still one story.
And one of my favorite fictional books of all time is Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
That
is a good one. Also, would potentially almost be one of my 3 movies.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly honest. Obviously, Star Wars would have to be in there for me. I know that's not obvious at all in my life. All right. One TV show. What is it?
Old, gone, or new?
And whatever you want it to be. I mean, the TV show for you that
TV
you are like,
show,
I want it. I'm here alone. I've got to watch this show, only this show. This is the one I'm choosing.
My kids argue with me now because they hate watching it, but I watch Treehouse Masters because my dream is to eventually live in a really high quality treehouse.
Oh, yeah. That would be really cool.
And they're amazing.
And it's a show they might keep making new episodes, so you could keep watching.
I hope so.
What about a show that's not around anymore, and you could only pretty much watch what's been created?
For me, it's Frasier.
Oh,
I love it. That's the funniest show I've ever.
I have never watched that 1 second of that.
What?
I know. Maybe if I'm in quarantine, I will. All right, you can have 1 secular music artist.
Jamiroquai.
Okay.
About Jamiroquai.
It's
kind of like it was like a big 90s band.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they have kind of a disco feel to them, and I just love the beat.
Hey, there you go. It's your quarantine, no one else's. You don't have to justify your answer. Yeah, that's all right. Obviously, sports and everything have been, canceled and postponed and everything, which is it is weird being in mid-March and not being able to scream at how awful my bracket is. because I've never watched any of it. Yeah, but I still do a bracket. If you could bring like one sport back so you could watch it and enjoy it, what would that sport be right now?
Golf. Only because every Sunday I relax on the couch and watch a final of some PGA event.
Yeah.
And it's relaxing to me and I love it.
Yeah, which in quarantine, wanting to relax, that makes sense. All right, so if this is news to you, I'm sorry, but so the Olympics have been postponed. But that means that you get one more year to train. So what sport are you training for, Jeremy, to be in the Olympics?
So this is a hard one because obviously they have shut down all the pools. So it would be swimming because I do love swimming and that would be, it's a total body exercise and I love that. But to me, if I had to train for one Olympic sport right now by myself, it would be pole vaulting.
Oh.
Pole vaulting.
I hope you do that so we can enjoy watching that.
I break too many poles.
Yeah. All right, we're going to shift it a little bit.
Okay.
So these have been, just fun things. So you can only listen to one preacher or podcast of a preacher. Again, you're kind of in your quarantine. Who are you listening to?
Okay, so I'm not really a huge podcast guy. I know everybody else listens to them, and I've wanted to. I've checked into a couple, and then I check out. But if there's one preacher, one voice right now I want to be hearing, it is probably Rick Warren.
Okay.
I like Rick Warren,
all right.
And I like what he offers, and he is extremely practical, and that's what I love about his teaching.
Good deal. All right, so the book question again, but we're shifting it now from fiction, and so you can only grab 3 theological books to read over, to pour over. What are those 3 books?
So if I have never read theology before, some of you, and by the way, you all have read theology because you're theologians, but if I had to start somewhere, it would be a book called Who Needs Theology by Stanley Grins and Robert Olson. I had to read that in my master's program, and it was kind of an intro, and I really enjoyed it because it helped me to value a subject that I'd always kind of been afraid of. Secondly, it would be Prophetic Imagination by Walter Brueggemann.
Yeah.
And third would be something that surprised me in seminary, and that was a book by a Cuban American named Justo Gonzalez called Mañana. And I loved that book because it helped me understand the theology of Latinos and how they view reading the Bible from a lens of oppression, and it's really cool.
Absolutely. Prophetic Imagination would be in my 3 also,
No doubt.
and I definitely want to read Mañana. You've been talking about it a lot. All right, so you can take one worship band, with you into quarantine. I knew the answer to this one before I even asked it. Who are you taking?
Hillsong Worship.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with all the other brands of
Hillsong Young and Free, Hillsong United, Hillsong Up the Mountain, Hillsong
awesome. Down
the Mountain, Hillsong here, Hillsong there.
Yeah.
So, any album in particular?
As far as albums go, Let There Be Light album.
Is that their most recent one?
No, it was their 2016 album.
All right.
And that was to me, I love that album.
All right. So I'm gonna reduce this one even more. You can only pick one worship song.
Oh yeah.
What is the song?
It is the song that I pick only because we saw it performed live for the first time before they released it at Catalyst, and that was by Hillsong Worship, and it was called Who You Say I Am.
Yep.
Brooke Ligertwood is the one that sang it. Brooke Fraser Ligertwood, but that song was transformational for me in a worship setting, and then I listen to that. That's what I pop in when I just need a good worship song.
Sure. All right. This one is a little tougher and might be towing up against the line of sacrilegious.
Okay.
You can only take 2 books of the Bible.
Okay.
What are those 2 books?
Oh. I mean, are there 66?
I don't know.
I would say the Samuels and the Book of John.
All right, first or second Samuel. This isn't a Lord of the Rings situation. We're just gonna bunch them together.
It's all one story.
Okay, it is one story, and I'll give you that. But why the Samuels though? Why the Samuels?
Samuels, to me, if I had to start,
I get John, by the way.
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
would say
Everybody
John because they feel like they have to.
I wanted to say Philemon because it's the shortest.
Jude.
Or Jude. But no, to me, I'm like, to me, Samuel first and second are the most well-written in story form, and you see prophecy that is set in motion that happens within the book.
Yep.
And it just seems to me to constantly have it is the most fiction-like story read in the Old Testament where it's fun to read. I enjoy it.
And you see God working through all of it, which is comforting.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been a fun bit of hyperbole, kind of moving through this. So I do want to ask, it's one more question, but it's kind of multiple questions within one question as we close this out.
Okay.
What are you doing during this time of disruption? Personally, what are you doing in this time of disruption to stay spiritually connected? What spiritual disciplines have you found to be absolutely necessary during this kind of unknown time? And then what would you recommend to people to stay connected to God? So what are you doing personally, to stay connected? What are the spiritual disciplines you're doing? And then what would you recommend to people to make sure that they are staying connected to God during a time where things are kind of in disruption?
Two of them, and one started off as dietary, but it's a spiritual thing, and that's I've been doing intermittent fasting.
Okay.
So in other words, I do not eat after 8 p.m. until 12:30 p.m. the next day, and that window gives me a time of fasting every single day. Where I only eat a light meal for lunch or dinner and flip the larger meals in between. But the short aspect of the fasting has allowed me to kind of focus in the mornings and allowed me to be reminded of it's not just a dietary thing, but it's also a spiritual thing. It allows me to focus and pray in moments where I'm hungry. And the second thing is, and this sounds, it's not so much it's a discipline we're kind of forced into right now, and that is solitude or quarantine.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how, I do think that practicing peace is a spiritual discipline. And for me, being with my family and not having a million things to think about in the evenings, this whole quarantine business has allowed me to really enjoy going home and disconnecting from work. And so I am not freaking out. I watched the numbers. I clicked on the live CDC map today and saw that finally the entire United States is swallowed up in red bubbles, red circles. And I had absolutely zero fear any more than I had 2 weeks ago. Sure. And it's just because I've been able to rest and social distance, and also just practice the spiritual discipline of peace. Prayer life is good, and I'm confident we're all going to get through it.
Yeah. And so what's your final word recommendation to people, to make sure that they're staying connected to God, to make sure that they're staying, we'll use the phrase plugged in, and that's not plugged into Gateway as an organization,
sure.
As an event,
right.
Plugged into their connection with God the Father.
I think definitely they need to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Apparently.
And then secondly, I think that staying in contact with people that are peaceful people is huge. So if you find yourself down and discouraged or scared or nervous or whatever, reach out to someone who can remind you and who's not afraid to remind you that God is still in control.
Amen.
Even in the midst of a meltdown, God is still the same God that he's been throughout history. He doesn't change. And so so that's what I would do, is lean on people via all the various social media apps, meeting apps, telephone calls, emails, all that stuff.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Gateway, we love you guys. We're excited to do another live stream worship on Sunday. Hope you guys are going to be ready to plug into that, and we will see you later.